Getting started with animation in Blender can feel impossible. Confusing panels, weird jargon, and no idea where to start. But there's one technique that flips the switch. It's how we teach every beginner at Blender Academy, and once you learn it, everything starts to click. It's called the key moment method, and today I'm going to break it down for you. Because once you learn this approach, you'll actually start enjoying the process of learning animation. Now before we get into the method, to accelerate your learning, I suggest you begin by starting simple. And I mean default cube simple. I know it's not sexy, but whether you want to animate a bouncing ball or a flying character, the principles are the same. So challenge yourself. No characters, no fancy models, just you and the humble default cube, Blender's most deleted object. Simplifying things this way will allow you to learn the tools and skills more easily since you won't be wrestling with a more advanced model. Okay, now that you're starting with a simplified model, next you'll need to understand keyframes. At their core, keyframes are how you tell Blender, hey, I want this thing to look like this at this point in time. In our case, let's say we want to make this default cube jump. Here's the basic process. In your viewport, press K and choose Location, Rotation, and Scale to add a keyframe for each. You've essentially just said, hey Blender, I want this cube to look exactly like this at this point in time. In the timeline below, drag your playhead to a later frame. Then move the cube and insert another keyframe. Press K and choose Location, Rotation, and Scale. And you've said, hey Blender, and I want that cube to have moved to here by this point in time. Of course, you drag the playhead forward again, and move the cube back to the ground, and set one last keyframe. Then drag the playhead back to the beginning and press play, and Blender will animate the cube changing location from keyframe to keyframe. And boom, you've animated something. But if you're only thinking in terms of keyframes, then you're approaching animation like a robot. And what we want to do is give our animations some life. Every good animation tells a story, even if it's just the default cube jumping. But stories aren't built on technical data like keyframes. Instead, they're built on moments that matter. Which leads me to the main point of this video, thinking key moments instead. So instead of focusing on keyframes, let's shift your mindset to something better, key moments. So keyframes are technical and key moments are emotional. One moves objects, the other tells a story. Now to help set up our key moments, we're going to use a technique called stepped animation. What is that? Well, it's when we turn off the feature in Blender that allows it to create automatic in-betweens from keyframe to keyframe. It's like saying, hey Blender, show me A, then B, then C. Rather than saying, hey Blender, show me from A to Z and just fill in the gap in between and let's hope it looks good. We can set this up by hovering over the area in the timeline, pressing A to select all keyframes, then press T and choose constant for constant interpolation. We'll get deeper into what interpolation is in just a moment. But for now, just know that this approach will force us to think more critically about how things change over time. Which is where the 12 principles of animation come into play. These were developed at Disney nearly a century ago and include things like anticipation, or basically smaller movements before the main action, squash and stretch, which is the slight deforming of an object when accelerating or decelerating, and exaggeration, which is making aspects of the action a little bigger than real life. These are what give your animation personality. So without them, things can feel floaty or robotic or just not very good. So for example, if our cube is going to jump in the air, would it just go up and down in one smooth motion? If so, you just have 3 key moments: the start, the top, and then the end of the jump. But when you play this as a stepped or constant animation, it lacks personality. It needs more impactful key moments. So what if the cube would anticipate the jump by squashing down a bit, then explode up and stretch out at the top of the jump, and then wobble when it lands? Well, now you have a few more key moments that will really sell the animation. And playing your animation without the in-between motion will actually help you really nail those key moments. Of course, once you have your key moments set, it's time for the next step, which is to nail the timing. When using stepped animation, you should be able to press play and just feel if it flows. And if it doesn't, it's probably a timing issue. So what's the fix? In the timeline, select one or more keyframes, then press G and move them. So if you want something faster, move the keyframes closer together. You want something slower? Then spread them out. You should be able to feel the rhythm even without smooth motion. If it feels off, then you'll know the timing is off. But once you do have things working, you're ready for the final step, which is to fine-tune the interpolation. Okay, let's talk about that thing we adjusted earlier, interpolation. Interpolation is just Blender's way of figuring out what happens in between the keyframes, or in our case, the key moments. It's where your animation goes from rough sketch to smooth motion. Now there are three main types of interpolation. Constant. This is what we've been using so far so that Blender doesn't show us any in-between states. Linear. This adjusts things at a constant rate of change. This works for some things, but not for most. For example, it's not right for a jumping cube. And Bezier. This allows you to ease into and out of a change, or to make custom adjustments to the rates of change. In most cases, this will be what you want, and it's definitely the best option for the jumping cube. Because you're new to animating, just choosing from one of these three interpolation types could be good enough. But as a preview of where things get really fun, once you've mastered everything that you've learned in this video, you'll be ready to graduate to using the graph editor, which is a tool for shaping motion to feel more natural. Just think about how motion works in real life. An object doesn't instantly start or stop. It eases in, eases out, bounces, settles, and the graph editor lets you control all of that. Now the graph editor is too much to cover in this video, but it's the secret sauce behind Pixar level animations, and it's a topic that we cover in depth in our Intro to Animation course on our website. Okay, that all being said, now that you know the key moment method, I have a challenge for you. I want you to animate the default cube narrowly escaping being deleted. And as you try it out, remember the method. Start simple, use key moments instead of keyframes, time it all out using constant mode, and then switch to Bezier mode at the end. Want help? Send your animation or your questions to team@blenderacademy.com. We love seeing what you make. And if this made animation click for you, then you're gonna love our full Intro to Animation in Blender course, where we walk through everything you need to know to get started on the right path. Head over to our website and try our courses for free. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And until next time, happy blending!